He still hasn't perfect movement yet.
Is it?
I think so.
And I think he's one of the best movers still now.
Before Erling Haaland became the striker defenders hate seeing on the team sheet, he was already putting up numbers that look straight out of a video game. And somehow, he was doing all of this while most players his age were still trying to establish themselves at the highest level. Before he even turned 23, Haaland had already ripped through some serious records. He became the fastest player to reach 50 Premier League goals, the quickest to score 4 Premier League hat-tricks, and then dropped a ridiculous 36 goals in a single league season.
Erling is the best striker in the world.
Setting a new Premier League record. In the Champions League, the numbers were just as wild. Haaland became the youngest player to reach 25 goals in the competition, proving early on that the biggest stage didn't scare him. But one of the craziest performances came before most casual fans even knew his name. While representing Norway's youth team at the 2019 FIFA U20 World Cup, Haaland scored 9 goals in a single match against Honduras, 9 goals in 90 minutes. That performance had football fans looking at this young Norwegian striker very differently. Since then, his rise has been crazy fast. With his size, speed, strength, and ruthless finishing, Haaland has built a reputation as one of football's most dangerous goal scorers.
But I'm telling you right now, if this man has a big World Cup, boom, right to the top, even over this guy. I love you, Z, but I will take Haaland over you if he has a big World Cup in terms of legendary status.
That's a big statement.
I'm not sure about that.
His performances have even pushed him into Ballon d'Or conversations while still relatively young. So where did this whole journey actually start? Haaland proudly represents Norway, but he wasn't actually born there. Erling Braut Haaland was born in Leeds, England on the 21st of July 2000. There was a simple reason for that. His father, Alfie Haaland, was also a professional footballer and was playing in England around that period. Football wasn't something Erling randomly discovered later in life.
Erling has been incredible. His goal scoring record, physically he's a machine, he's a beast. His finishing is at the highest level, and obviously his goal scoring record speaks for itself. Yeah, I see myself as a different player, although I score the same goals. I like to maybe touch the ball a little bit more, be involved in play a little bit more, but also can play as maybe the out and out 9. But I don't think he's one to compare ourselves. I think I respect him a lot as a player, as a fellow professional.
It was already part of the family, and his connection to the game started before he could even understand what his father's career would eventually mean for his own. Erling's time in England didn't last very long. After spending only a few years there, his family moved back to Bryn, Norway in 2004. And that small town would become the place where his own football story really started taking shape. Around this period, his father Alfie was dealing with injuries that eventually pushed his playing career toward an early end. Of course, football fans still bring up Roy Keane's infamous challenge on Alfie during a Manchester derby and question whether it contributed to his retirement. But there is no clear evidence that one moment alone ended his career. What we do know is that ongoing injury problems eventually forced Alfie away from professional football earlier than expected. While his father's career was winding down, Erling was only getting started.
He's a very intelligent player. He doesn't do more than he needs to do. And where his quality comes out is in front of the goal. That is where the killer instinct comes in. And
at just 5 years old, he joined the academy of his hometown club, Bryn, and began developing the raw skills that would later make him a nightmare for defenders. And it didn't take forever for his numbers to start looking crazy. Playing for Bryn's reserve team, the young striker scored 18 goals in only 14 matches. At that point, the club couldn't just act like this was some regular academy prospect. The kid was clearly cooking. Those performances quickly pushed Haaland into the senior setup. Then, at only 15 years old, he made his first team debut against Ranheim, stepping into senior football at an age when most young players were still nowhere near the first team. Not scoring in his first senior season didn't slow the hype around Haaland. Bigger clubs were already watching closely, and German side Hoffenheim even brought him in for a trial. But instead of making that move, Haaland stayed in Norway and signed with Molde, one of the country's top clubs, where he would develop under Norwegian football legend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Just 2 months after arriving, Haaland got his first real opportunity.
Has anyone ever stopped Erling Haaland? I'm not sure they have, but we're going to try. You're going to have to try, I think. He's such an unbelievable player. The things he does, the numbers he puts up, you're just in awe of how good he is and the level he's at.
At only 16 years old, he made his Molde debut in a Norwegian Cup match against Molde, and this time, he didn't leave the pitch without a goal. He scored on his debut, giving everyone an early taste of what was coming. By the end of his first season at Molde, Haaland had 4 goals and 1 assist across 20 appearances. On paper, those numbers might not seem insane, especially compared to what he would eventually produce. But the important detail was his age. This dude was only 16, already battling grown professionals, while most players his age were still fighting for academy minutes. Then came the real jump. During the following season, Haaland started showing that he wasn't just some promising young striker. He was becoming a serious problem. He finished the league campaign with 12 goals and 4 assists in 25 appearances. But one match really put people on notice. Against Brann, Haaland went crazy. He scored 4 goals inside the opening 21 minutes, including a hat-trick within the first 11. Suddenly, one of Norway's hottest young prospects wasn't just developing quietly anymore. Scouts across Europe had a very good reason to keep his name near the top of their lists. By this point, Haaland was no longer flying under the radar. His rapid progress earned him the Elitserien Breakthrough of the Year award, and he finished as Molde's leading scorer. Naturally, clubs from around Europe started circling, including Leeds United, the same club his father had once represented. But Haaland and his team weren't trying to chase the biggest name straight away. They wanted the right move for his development, and that led him to Austrian champions Red Bull Salzburg. Haaland agreed to a 5-year deal, joining a club known for giving young talent a real shot instead of leaving them stuck on the bench. Because the move happened midway through the season, Haaland didn't get many chances during the remaining months of the 2018-19 campaign. He made only a couple of league appearances and scored once, meaning Salzburg fans still hadn't seen anything close to what this kid was capable of. Then came the FIFA U20 World Cup with Norway, and that's where things got seriously wild. Norway's tournament started rough. They lost their opening match 3-1 against Uruguay, with future Liverpool striker Darwin Núñez getting his name on the scoresheet. Their situation got even worse in the second game, when New Zealand beat them 2-0. 2 matches, 2 losses, and Norway's chances of advancing were hanging by a thread. Their final group match against Honduras looked like it could be nothing more than a chance to save some pride. Instead, it became the game where Haaland produced one of the most ridiculous individual scoring performances the tournament had ever seen. What happened against Honduras was straight up ridiculous. Norway ran riot with a massive 12-0 victory, but Haaland completely hijacked the headlines by scoring 9 goals by himself. 9 goals in one match. It was the kind of stat that looked fake until you watched the highlights. The result became Norway's biggest ever win at U20 level. Even more crazy, Norway still didn't make it beyond the group stage. Haaland, however, walked away with the tournament's golden boot after finishing with 9 goals, all coming from that one outrageous performance against Honduras. Suddenly, his name was moving way beyond Norway and Austria. Clips of the goals spread across social media, football fans were talking, and more people started realizing Salzburg had a serious talent on their hands. When Haaland returned to club football, there was no slowing him down. Red Bull Salzburg gave him a bigger role up front, and he started tearing through defenses. In the Austrian Bundesliga, he smashed in 16 goals and added 6 assists across only 14 league appearances. Those numbers were crazy for any striker, never mind someone still at the beginning of his career. Haaland was producing more goal contributions than games played in the league, and suddenly, Austria was starting to look too small for him. But his league form was only part of the madness. Europe was about to see what happened when Haaland stepped onto the Champions League stage. Destroying defenses in Austria was one thing, but Haaland still needed to prove he could do it against Europe's best. The Champions League gave him that chance, and he didn't waste any time making his name impossible to ignore. In his Champions League debut against Genk, Haaland came out firing and scored a hat-trick. Just like that, a teenager many casual fans barely knew had introduced himself on Europe's biggest club stage with 3 goals in one night. And he wasn't done. Against defending champions Liverpool at Anfield, Haaland came off the bench and found the net in a crazy 4-3 battle. Then came Napoli, where he scored twice at home before grabbing another goal in the away fixture. When Salzburg faced Genk again, Haaland scored once more, keeping his ridiculous Champions League run alive. Salzburg eventually missed out on the round of 16 and dropped into the Europa League, but by then, Haaland had already done enough damage. He finished the Champions League group stage with 8 goals in 6 appearances, and suddenly some of Europe's biggest clubs wanted a piece of the action. Manchester United were heavily linked with him, while other major European clubs were also reported to be watching his situation closely. The teenager had gone from a rising prospect in Austria to one of the hottest young strikers on the market in just a matter of months. But when the transfer race finally ended, Haaland didn't choose the destination many people expected. His next move was Germany, where Borussia Dortmund had secured one of Europe's most dangerous young goalscorers. Dortmund didn't need some massive transfer fee to get their hands on Haaland. In January 2020, the German club reportedly paid around €20 million to sign him from Salzburg, and considering what happened next, that price quickly started looking like an absolute steal. His Bundesliga debut against Augsburg was pure chaos. Haaland started on the bench with Dortmund trailing, but once he entered the game in the second half, the whole vibe changed. It took him just minutes to score his first goal, and before Augsburg could figure out how to deal with him, he had completed a hat-trick. 3 goals in roughly 23 minutes on your Bundesliga debut was already crazy, but Haaland somehow kept the same energy in his next match against Köln. Once again, he started on the bench. Once again, he came on and started causing problems almost immediately. Just 12 minutes after entering the match, Haaland scored. Around 10 minutes later, he struck again to complete the brace. That gave him 5 goals from his first 2 Bundesliga appearances, making him the first player in Bundesliga history to reach 5 goals that quickly. He was then named the Bundesliga Player of the Month for January, despite playing only 59 league minutes that month. Then, the pressure went up another level. Dortmund were drawn against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League round of 16, putting Haaland on the same stage as stars like Neymar and another young superstar, Kylian Mbappe. But in the first leg, Haaland was the one grabbing the headlines. He scored both of Dortmund's goals in a 2-1 victory, with his second being an absolute missile from outside the box. The shot flew past Keylor Navas before he could do much about it, giving Haaland another huge Champions League moment. That night also pushed his famous meditation celebration deeper into the spotlight. Haaland sat down, crossed his legs, touched his fingers together, and stayed completely calm while the stadium around him was going crazy. The pose would become one of his signature celebrations, matching the strange mix that made Haaland so fascinating. Ruthless when the ball reached him, but ice cold once it hit the back of the net. Dortmund took a 2-1 advantage into the second leg against PSG, but they couldn't finish the job. Paris turned the tie around and knocked them out of the Champions League. Still, that defeat barely took anything away from the ridiculous season Haaland had just produced. By the end of the 2019-20 campaign, Haaland had stacked up 44 goals and 10 assists in only 40 appearances across all competitions for Salzburg and Dortmund. That's 54 goal contributions while he was still just 19 years old. At an age when most young players are happy just getting regular minutes, Haaland was putting up numbers that looked straight out of career mode. But those numbers weren't only about natural talent. Behind the scenes, Haaland was apparently obsessed with finding small ways to improve his game. His former Salzburg teammate Max Wober gave a revealing look at that mindset when he said, "Haaland is an absolute top professional." He then explained, "While the rest of us are playing cards on trips away, you can see him reading some scientific articles on how he can improve his sleep or diet." That pretty much tells you what Haaland was on. While teammates might be relaxing during trips, he was studying ways to improve his sleep, diet, recovery, and overall performance. Tiny details that might seem boring to most people mattered to him because even a small advantage could make a difference on the pitch. That mentality helped explain how someone so young was developing at such a crazy speed. Haaland wasn't simply relying on his size, pace, and finishing ability. He was treating his body and career like a full-time project, constantly searching for another level. But here's where Haaland gets more interesting. For someone so locked in behind the scenes, his interviews showed a completely different side. His dry humor, awkward pauses, and brutally short answers created some memorable moments that quickly started getting attention from football fans online. After dropping 54 goal contributions the season before, the big question was simple. Could Haaland seriously do it again? Somehow, he nearly matched those ridiculous numbers straight away. During the 2020-21 season, Haaland recorded 41 goals and 12 assists in 41 matches across all competitions. That's 53 goal contributions, only one fewer than the previous campaign. At this point, calling his numbers a lucky hot streak didn't really work anymore. This was starting to become his normal level. Season after season, Haaland kept putting up numbers that looked broken. Defenders knew what he wanted to do, teams prepared specifically to stop him, and somehow he kept finding the net anyway. But heading into the 2021-22 campaign, something finally managed to slow him down, and it wasn't opposing defenders. Injuries became the real problem. Even with multiple setbacks disrupting his season, Haaland still finished with 29 goals and 8 assists in only 30 appearances for Dortmund. That's 37 goal contributions in 30 games. For almost any striker on the planet, those numbers would be elite. They only seemed less crazy because Haaland had spent the previous 2 seasons setting such an outrageous standard. The injuries also hurt him on the international stage. Norway were battling for a place at the 2022 FIFA World Cup, but Haaland missed some crucial qualifiers while sidelined. Norway stayed competitive in their group, but eventually finished behind the Netherlands and Turkey, meaning they failed to qualify. So while some of football's biggest names headed to Qatar, one of the deadliest young strikers in the game had to watch from home. That season also turned out to be Haaland's last with Borussia Dortmund. His time in Germany had been short, but the damage he did was crazy. Across just 2.5 seasons, Haaland scored 86 goals and provided 23 assists in 89 appearances for the club. Those weren't normal numbers. He had arrived in Dortmund as one of Europe's hottest young prospects and was leaving as one of the most feared strikers in world football. And there was another detail that had Europe's biggest clubs watching closely. Haaland's contract reportedly contained a release clause that became active in 2022, allowing him to leave Dortmund for a fee of around €60 million. For a striker producing numbers like his, that price had some of the richest clubs in football ready to make their move. For a striker who had been tearing through defenses across Europe, Haaland's reported release clause fee looked like serious value. Manchester City saw their opportunity and moved fast, bringing one of football's most dangerous young goalscorers to the Premier League without paying the kind of 9-figure transfer fee many superstars were commanding. And this wasn't just another big money move. City had been searching for a top-level striker, while Haaland already had a personal connection to the club. His father, Alfie Haaland, had worn the Manchester City shirt years earlier, so Erling's arrival had a full-circle feel to it. The hype around his debut was massive. City fans wanted to see whether the goal machine from Germany could bring the same madness to English football, while plenty of rival supporters were waiting to see if the Premier League would finally slow him down. Then came his first official match, the Community Shield against Liverpool, and things got messy fast. City lost 3-1, but one moment involving Haaland grabbed a huge amount of attention. Late in the game, he had a golden opportunity from close range, but smashed his effort against the crossbar. Within hours, clips of the miss were everywhere. Social media did what social media does. Some fans immediately started questioning whether Haaland could handle the Premier League, while others were already throwing around early flop claims after basically one competitive appearance. It was a wild reaction considering the season hadn't even properly started yet. And once the Premier League campaign got underway, Haaland didn't need much time to give those early critics a very different conversation. The Premier League was supposed to be Haaland's biggest test. Instead, within a few weeks, he had defenders looking like they were dealing with something they hadn't prepared for. He opened his league campaign by scoring twice against West Ham. After another goal in the wild draw against Newcastle, Haaland went off against Crystal Palace, smashing his first Premier League hat-trick. Then, just days later, he dropped another hat-trick against Nottingham Forest. The guy had barely arrived in England, and he was already ripping through defenses. Then came the Manchester derby. Against Manchester United, Haaland took things to another level, scoring a hat-trick and adding 2 assists in City's 6-3 victory. That performance meant he had scored hat-tricks in 3 consecutive Premier League home matches, becoming the first player in the competition's history to pull that off. He also became the fastest player to reach 3 Premier League hat-tricks, destroying a record previously held by Michael Owen. And the records kept getting cooked. Haaland became the fastest player to reach 20 Premier League goals and the first to hit 20 before January in a Premier League season. Later, he became the fastest player to reach 50 Premier League goals, while also setting the record for reaching 4 Premier League hat-tricks in the fewest matches. But his first season wasn't just about collecting random records. The biggest one came when Haaland smashed the Premier League record for most goals in a single 38-game season. He finished with 36 league goals, moving beyond Mohamed Salah's previous 32-goal record for a 38-game campaign. His total also surpassed the 34-goal marks Andy Cole and Alan Shearer had recorded during the old 42-game Premier League seasons. Under Pep Guardiola, Haaland was putting up numbers no player coached by him had managed before. He became Guardiola's highest-scoring player in a single season. And by this stage, keeping track of every record was becoming a job by itself. His final numbers told the story clearly. Haaland ended his debut Manchester City season with 52 goals and 9 assists in 53 appearances across all competitions. But the individual stats were only half the story. City won the Premier League, FA Cup, and Champions League, completing a historic treble. Haaland hadn't simply survived his first year in England. He arrived, smashed records, and helped Manchester City become only the second English men's club to complete that famous treble. After everything Haaland had done that season, Manchester City still had 3 massive trophies to finish the job. First came the Premier League, where City chased down Arsenal and eventually took control of the title race, securing another league crown and putting the first piece of the treble in place. Next came the FA Cup final, and the opponent couldn't have made the occasion any bigger. Manchester United stood between City and another trophy, turning Wembley into the stage for a huge Manchester derby. Haaland started up front as City defeated their local rivals 2-1, with Ilkay Gundogan scoring both of City's goals. Then came the one trophy Manchester City had been chasing for years. In the Champions League final, City faced Inter Milan with history sitting right in front of them. It was tight, tense, and nothing came easy, but Rodri finally broke through with the goal that changed everything. City held on for a 1-0 victory, winning their first Champions League title and completing the historic treble. Haaland didn't score in the FA Cup or Champions League finals, but that doesn't erase what he did to help City get there. His goals had been a major part of their run across every competition. He finished as the Premier League Golden Boot winner and also topped the Champions League scoring charts during a debut season that was straight up ridiculous. And somehow, this could still be the early part of Haaland's story. He's already smashed records that stood for years, won the biggest trophies in club football, and established himself among the game's elite goal scorers. Whether he eventually wins 1 Ballon d'Or, multiple Ballon d'Or awards, or none at all remains to be seen. But his numbers have already put him in some serious conversations. Now we want to hear from you. How many Ballon d'Or awards do you think Erling Haaland will win before he retires? Drop your prediction in the comments and tell us where you think he'll rank among the greatest strikers when his career is finally over. And if you enjoyed Haaland's story, show some love to Matchio. Like the video, share it with another football fan, and subscribe to Matchio for more stories about football's biggest stars, craziest careers, iconic moments, and the stories behind the players everyone is talking about. Thanks for watching Matchio. Peace.